Charlo and Castano fight over 12 rounds. A split draw. One judge had it 117, 111 for Charlo. Unbelievable. I mean, how is this still allowed in boxing? Let's talk about it here on BWTM Sports. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. Busy weekend. As you know, it has been my birthday on the Thursday, and we're still celebrating it up to today. Going to be having a beach party a little later, very soon, in fact. So I'm going to get moving. I shouldn't even be here doing this show. Anyway, what a great fight last night between Jamil Charlo and Brian Castano. Initial thoughts? 117, 111 for Charlo. I'm a Charlo fan, but that's disgusting. This is for the undisputed championship of the world. And both guys are champions in their right. Jamil unified. Brian Castano has one of the belts. And so this was not two belts. This was a fight where this sealed who the number one fighter in the division would have been. That judge needs to either be retrained or never allowed to score again, because as far as I'm concerned, that judging was done before Charlo even entered the building. No way can you score a fight that close, 117, 111, where Brian Castano had Charlo's back against the ropes for a lot of the fight. Now, albeit, if you watch the fight closely, a lot of those shots that Castano was throwing were being blocked and being slipped, which showed great defensive ability by Jamil Charlo. And I give credit to Derek James for that. However, now, when I didn't do a preview to this fight, and I should have done, but the first thing I could see about Castano when he comes forward is that he's left open to uppercuts. He's blatantly open for uppercuts. And his body's open for shots to body as well. And it seemed that, for the most part, it looked like Charlo was quite content to sit on the ropes. Either he was sitting on the ropes because he was content to sit on the ropes, or he was forced onto the ropes because of Brian Castano's physical strength. I can't tell because I'm not in there. And Castano threw a lot of punches and he put a lot of pressure on. It showed when actually Charlo put his foot down and he hit Castano and pushed him onto the back foot, and he started to hurt him. Castano wasn't as happy with that, and he hurt him. And all the times he hurt Castano was when he was onto the front foot and wasn't with against Castano. Now, I don't know what the game plan was with Derek James and Charlo, but for sure, it was not to lay his back up against them ropes. He got caught with something nasty. I can't remember what round it was. It was a left hook. In boxing, you're going to get hit with a shot. You're going to get caught. You will get buzzed. This is boxing. It's like getting in the shower and expecting not to get wet. It happens, particularly when there's an exchange and blows are coming in and you're fighting yourself off the ropes. That's one of the places where you're most likely to get caught on the ropes by a guy who's very good at throwing shorter punches. So his punches will get through. No matter how defensive, how many times you slip on block and duck and weave, you're going to get hit with something. And he got hit with something nasty. And I think that he got buzzed and he got shaken, that it made him hesitant. And a lot of times when he fired back and he actually hurt Castano, in my opinion, was not out of retaliation. It wasn't about him starting it. It was about him retaliating. And there's a difference. When you're starting something, when you are engaging, when you're the guy starting this stuff, it's different from when you're on the back foot and you're retaliating. And what I saw a lot of Charlo, it was retaliation. He'd get up against the ropes and then throw something back in between. And that's the best time to catch Castano. You've got to throw punches in between when he's throwing his punches. You've got to throw punches in between when he's throwing those punches. Because Castano, when he's throwing his own punches, he's not really paying attention to defense. When you're throwing all them punches, you're prone to getting countered. That's why you see the Klitschko's is a good example, is why they keep it to 1, 2, 3 punches and they keep them straight. You don't see them throwing a whole heap of flurry of punches unless they've got you hurt. Why? Because you don't get countered that way. And that's why you saw with Castano, he's throwing all them punches in between those shots. That's how Charlo was able to catch him. But because he's back against the ropes, he's retaliating. Most of the time, he's retaliating. So I'm surprised he stays center of ring, take the center ring, and take charge. And because of Castano's physical strength, he had to retaliate and he had to fight off the ropes, which showed Charlo had lots of substance, lots of balls, and lots of fighting heart. What you want to see the champion. So I was really impressed with Charlo. I was also impressed with Castano, his work rate, his ability to soak up punishment, because a lot of guys, I heard them talk about Tony Harrison in there and how he was a tougher opponent. But I tell you, if those shots were landing on Tony Harrison would have been knocked out in there. Because Harrison is a good fighter, a very good fighter, but I still feel he's a bit around the suspect chin side of things and a bit stamina-wise, he's certainly suspect in that area for me when it comes to big fights. The gas tank has let him down in the second fight, and when he was fighting against Hurd as well, that was another example of that. So for me, should it have been a draw? I'm going to say this. If you fight the way Charlo fought, with your back against the ropes, and you remember in an arena, when the judges are watching you, your back's against the ropes. Remember your judge watching from the back against the ropes, and if you Castano throwing all these punches, it's quite easy for you to say, that's a Castano round. That's a Castano round. So if you score it that way, if you're a judge looking from a judge's perspective, looking from behind, I'm on the ropes, and I'm watching on the ropes, I'm watching Charlo's back against the ropes, then yeah, I would probably score it more for Castano. I couldn't remember which boxer scored it 7-5 for Castano. If he won the fight, I wouldn't have had too much of a problem with it, because I thought Charlo either fought the wrong fight or he fought Castano's fight. Either way you look at it, he didn't fight the fight he should have had. He's a taller, longer guy. He didn't want to tie Castano up in the inside, which he could have done, which wouldn't have made an exciting fight, as exciting a fight. But he might have got caught the way he got caught. Then I think that would have brought some hesitancy in him. I didn't see the uppercuts thrown, which I would like to see from him, because Castano was well open to uppercuts. I didn't see the body shots that were ripped, more body shots being ripped in, which I didn't see that happen. I think Charlo can do better in a second fight. I don't think Castano can do better in a second fight. I think Castano can bring that same. I think Charlo 1 is reminiscent to me of Marcus Maidana against Floyd Mayweather, the first fight. The way Maidana was putting constant pressure, throwing punches all the time. And some people thought Maidana won the first fight. And in the second fight, Floyd said, you know what? I ain't staying on the ropes for you second fight. I'm taking center of the ring. I'm going to pop you here and I'm going to be away. I am not interested. People didn't like the second fight because Floyd didn't allow himself to get caught on the ropes all the time. And he was spinning away and keeping away from Maidana. Well, Maidana still brought that style. So Charlo knows in a rematch. He knows in a rematch coming in, this guy's coming at me. He can take my best shot. And if I stay on the ropes, I am liable to get caught with something nasty again. and I'm liable to have the judges go against me. So I've got to stay off the ropes as much as possible. Even the fight when Lennox Lewis fought Ray Mercer in a small ring, go back and look at that fight. Some people thought Ray Mercer won that fight. Lennox won the fight, but I can see why people thought Mercer won the fight, because Lennox, again, back against the ropes. And if you, from the Americans' perspective, the guy who's the aggressor should win the fight. The guy who's on the front foot should win the fight. Then I can see why people would call Castano winning the fight. But again, in terms of Charlo, and I said he's one of my favorite fighters, if you get caught into a dogfight like that, instead of keeping it long, I know it's a bit boring. I know it's not what people want to see. They want to see them shootouts every week. But there's some people that would say, Charlo's been exposed. No, he's not been exposed. He's been in a damn good fight. That's why I see it. So, yeah. A draw? Yeah, I think so. I think out of the two guys, I would say Charlo can go back and do better. And if I were Charlo's trainer, I'd say serves you right. If I was, being brutally honest. Undisputed championship of the world. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know. He got caught with something nasty in there, which made him not hesitant to throw certain punches or do certain things. Or just Castano is that good. But I don't know. We'll know in the rematch. But he knows now he can't just go in there and just blow him away with power, because that ain't going to happen. He's going to have to, feint more. He's going to have to wait for Castano to throw his shots and then look to counter. He's got to throw punches in between Castano's punches. So it's a scientific not so much back to the drawing board, but for me, he's going to go look at the tape and look at where he caught Castano in those exchanges and look, right, we need more of that. We need more of that, and we need less of you being on them ropes. And when you're in that position, when you've got him hurt, let's look at the combinations you were throwing when you had him hurt, and let's see if we can do anything. And let's see if we can look to walk him onto the uppercut in this fight, in the rematch. Let's look to walk him onto the uppercut. Let's look to tie him up on the inside. Let's look to shut him down. As they use the word in business, let's look to disrupt him, disrupt what Castano does. Let's frustrate him. Let's not allow him to get his hands free and do what he does, because that's his fight. So those are my thoughts on the fight. That referee that scored 117-111 should never score a boxing fight again. There needs to be a punishment for that referee. And if we allow referees like that if we allow judges like that to carry on in boxing, to do the stuff that he did tonight or last night, then that says a lot about the boxing board or the federation or the governing governing bodies that allow that stuff. Every governing body should, for an undisputed fight, should look at that judge and say, you know what? You're as corrupt as hell. But why else would you score a fight 117-111? Why else would you? Again, and I'm a Charlo fan, and I'm telling you, that judge is damn corrupt. 117-111. What fight were you watching, mate? We should interview these guys. We should interview them and hear what they have to say. It's disgusting. Thank you. It's not my birthday today, but thank you. Shocking robbery. Too many times the underdog who doesn't have the hype gets robbed badly by judges. It wasn't a robbery. Sorry, it wasn't a robbery. I will not have that fight saying it's a robbery. But I will say that it was a closer fight. And if Charlo lost it, I could see why he lost it. All right? So I wouldn't call that fight a robbery. Sorry, I'm not accepting robbery. I'm not accepting robbery. The judge though, who scored 117-111, yes, he would have been part of a robbery. Yes, but the fight was not scored a robbery. That draw, I'll take that. Heyman slipped the brown judge envelope. So how many matchroom fights have we seen where brown envelopes have been around? Do I need to talk about most matchroom cards? Or again, are you going to be a favorite and say, because it's Al Heyman, you're going to be a favorite there, but you won't call matchroom for all the brown envelopes that are from nearly every other fight? Shall we talk about Lewis Ritson? Do I have to keep going on and on and on? Good morning. Haven't watched the fight yet, but I've seen robberies. I've seen all I've seen is robberies about undisputed. Well, you know, the first one between Holyfield and Lewis was a blatant robbery, but I think they did that because they wanted a rematch, and it's a money spinner. Is there a need for a money spinner for Charlo? Yeah, I can see it because there's no rush for Charlo to move from light middleweight to middleweight. So let's run that one back. There's money. It's a second fight, a pay-per-view event. Great fight, the first fight. That's a good idea to get a draw to make more money for a second fight. So yes, I get it from a business perspective for those two to run it back. Makes more money. That makes sense, yeah? But boxing fans probably wanted to see an undisputed champion that night. But if you think about it, at middleweight, you have his brother. And that means that if Charlo enters the middleweight division, there's a problem. Okay? So I think they're going to respect one another's space. That's what I think. If this was Eddie, you'd be non-stop about it. No. Please stop with that rubbish. You cannot say. When can you say my channel has been that biased? Don't talk rubbish. Don't talk like you're an arsehole. You're just bitter about the whole Fury situation. But that's another story for another day. Castano won that. He was robbed. Was he robbed? No, he wasn't robbed. Let's talk sense now. He wasn't robbed. He wasn't robbed. The guy was rocked numerous occasions in that fight. He wasn't robbed. Maybe I would say he could have won that fight. Yes. Robbed is Holyfield versus Lewis. That is robbed. This is not robbed. So please don't say it's robbed. Don't say it's robbed. Robbery is when it's clear light in day between two fighters. This wasn't clear light in day. You could not say Castano dominated the fight from round 1 to round 12. That was not a robbery. Neither was Fury versus Wilder. That could not be a robbery when the guy was on his back. So please stop with the robbery stuff. Stop it, please. So it's not robbery. A close fight? Yes. Lewis Holyfield won? That's a robbery where a man dominated behind a jab and a right hand and uppercuts. One guy threw a whole load of punches and they were landing cleanly, and another guy didn't land that many punches. That's a robbery. Holyfield, Lewis won. That's robbery. This is not robbery. This is a close fight between two top competitors going back and forth, but it was not a robbery. It was maybe, you could score it 7-5 for Castano. You could score it 7-5 for Charlo. You could, but not a robbery. When the numbers are that close, not a robbery. Did Castano win from round 1 to round 12? Hell no, he didn't. Did Charlo win from round 1 to round 12? No, he didn't. So, if you could say Castano won the earlier half of the fight, first 6, okay, but Charlo won the last 6. That cannot be a robbery. So can you please expand on how you think it's a robbery? You made a statement. Why is it a robbery? Can you explain to me? You've made a statement which sounds like a troll statement. Why is it a robbery? Can you explain to me why it's a robbery? Thank you. And can you, Mr. Guerrero, please expand on your statement in what you say that if it was Eddie, I'd be non-stop. I call robberies regardless of who the promoter is. If it's a robbery, it's a robbery. Robbery to me is when one guy has clearly won 12 rounds, outboxed his opponent, not on the deck looking up at the lights. That's not a robbery. A guy being knocked down on his ass twice in a fight is not a robbery. When a judge calls rounds 4, 5, 6 to Charlo, that's a robbery. No. If a judge scores 4, 5, 6 in Charlo, that's bad judging. That's not robbery. That's bad judging. So don't put the onus in Charlo, because Charlo didn't do the scoring, did he? Come on, let's talk about it. Charlo didn't get out the ring and score for himself, did he? Or in your mind, does it work that way? The judge needs to be held accountable for the scoring, not Charlo. So like I said, Castano could have won that fight 7-5. Charlo could have won the fight 7-5. The fight can be scored as a draw. It depends on how you view it. But I will not have people come on the channel and tell me it was a robbery when it was a close fight. I will say again, the judge is responsible. People like to put blame on boxers instead of putting it on the judges. We need to say, listen, these judges are corrupt. The sport is corrupt. And the quicker we get rid of judges like this in boxing, the better boxing will be. And this is what I've said in previous shows. There needs to be a independent outside organization looking at these fights and then bringing these judges in for conversation. Say, excuse me, you scored this fight 117, 111. Show us how you scored that fight and sit down and explain to us how you got to that decision. How do you rob someone by not judging badly? Let's take this back. The judge is responsible, not Charlo. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, if you condone and you allow and you continue to talk about robbery without talking about the judge, then you're part of the problem. If you address the problem from the root and say, these judges need to be kicked out of boxing, and if we ever see these judges judging another fight, we need to say there's corruption going on. That's what we do. We don't just say, well, it's robbery. We look to the root of the problem. You can't rob someone whilst judging correctly. LOL. So what is your solution to the judging? That's the problem we have here. There's no point complaining about the judges. What are you going to do about it? When we have judges, we need to have judges, particularly in an undisputed fight, we need to have judges with good, credible track records. So that guy was the best judge possible for an undisputed fight, or was he the most susceptible to being part of corruption? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. We know who the two fighters are. We know who the referee is. Now we need to know who the judges are. And as boxing fans, we need to be taking a more critical view of the judges that take part and not just give them leeway and just a pass because they're just a judge. What defines a judge? A judge is somebody who we're saying through their eyes is going to make the right and important call. They're not making the right and important call. Therefore, they should not be considered judges. You can't. Oh, yeah. Anyway, with that, so that's my thoughts on that. Judges need to be changed. There needs to be a penalty for these judges. If there's penalties for referee for fighters missing weight, if there's penalties and fighters lose their weights, their belts on the scales, if fighters get censored and investigated for their comments, and promoters get away scot-free for saying what they want, when they like, how they feel, they should be penalised, and judges should be penalised. As simple as that. All across the board, they need to be penalised. So those are my thoughts on that. And as for Tyson Fury and his fans, you know, this guy can get away with absolute murder. He can do what he wants, and fans won't speak out on it. But he's being exposed more and more, and that's of no surprise. But that's another video or show for another day. But congratulations to Brian Castano retaining your belt. Very good performance from yourself. Congratulations to Jermall Charlo for remaining champion. But I think you can box better in the rematch. Just stay off them goddamn ropes. Agree. Need to be more visible around judges before they get chances for big fighters. Should show the history of big fights. Of course they should. That's it. At least we've got some agreement on something today, Mr. Guerrero. That's it from me. I'm off to the beach. Might do a live from the beach, actually, talking about the Fury situation. Right, but that's me from BWTM Sports Gaming. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, like the video, and even if you don't like it, I don't care. We're out.